Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Hey everyone, welcome back to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Mac.
And I'm Zach, and tonight's game night. So that means we're going to be packing up the 5 games we put in our game night game bag.
Nice. Alright, so one of my games is Wingspan. This is by Stonemaier Games. It's a 5-player game, so it ranges, if you've got 1 to 5 players at your game night. It's got good mechanics, a lot of replayability, and so I think it's a really good staple to have in your game bag.
Yeah, it definitely works with all those player counts really nicely, I think, and it's just a really solid game to bring to game night.
It's an easy one to learn, but at the same time, it's also a strategy for some of your maybe more thinkier guests.
Mm-hmm. In my game bag, I would first have Architects of the West Kingdom. I'm a big fan of a lot of the Garfield games, and I think Architects of the West Kingdom, as between that and Raiders of the North Sea, I think either one of those would be a really perfect game to bring to game night. They use use worker placement very well, I think, and it's just a solid, a little thinkier game, but not too thinky at the same time. It's not something that you're going to bring out and the other people are going to be like, oh, this is way too much to overthink things. Or
It'll probably take a couple of turns and a couple of plays until you finally get the full motion of that game down, but it's not so difficult that you can't get the icons or kind of the movement of the game your first time through.
Right, and the turns can be extremely snappy when everyone knows how to play.
Right. Because you want to get multiple games in game night, so.
Right. So you need games that can, are for all levels, but also are fast, somewhat fast.
So true. My second game that I put in the bag is Ethnos. This is up to 6 players. It's a game. It's card drafting, and what would you say? It's like it's not
set
tile
collection.
play. Yeah, set collection, and then area control. A little bit. I like it because there's a lot of luck involved. You can kind of choose which cards you take, and then you're kind of fighting for control of areas. It has different characters that you can use, so there's a lot of replayability in this one as well. I just like it. I think it's a really good game.
And it's another one of those that's quite snappy as well, because, this one, it's really very few options of, do you take the card that's showing, do you take a card off the top of the deck, or do you lay your cards down?
Yeah, not many options, but it feels pretty rewarding a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's a little bit of press your luck in there, too, where you're trying to get one more of a certain set of something, whether it be a color or a different type of thing.
Trying to get it all together before the dragons come out.
Yes. So for my number 4 in my game bag is Camel Up. So it's one that plays up to 8 players, I believe. So this is a game that I'd have for some of those larger game nights where you have, you want to try to get everyone around the table all together. And I think this one can just be a lot of fun. I've had a couple games of it where it has gone really quickly, and it's not quite as fun then when one just gets out into an early leader, somehow hops on the back of another one and just wins in, 3 rounds or something. But there's also been some extremely satisfying games of it, and it's just a fun game. It's not really hardcore strategy or anything. It's just kind of one of those games that you get around and play together, kind of have fun, and then you're rooting for the camel that's in last place, hoping that if this situation happens exactly, he could win this turn, even though he's 8 spaces behind.
Right, or you could be like my dad and just bet and just randomly pick the correct ones.
First 2 bets.
First 2 turns.
I think this guy's going to lose, this guy's going to win.
Right.
Oh, I was right.
And you definitely, this game is not one that I would recommend taking seriously. Just have a lot of fun with it, and you'll have fun with it. So, it's a good game. It's super fun. The camels are adorable. I love that they stack. It's really lighthearted. So, a great game, I think. All right, so the next one that goes in my bag is Cartographers. So this can play as many people as you like. It's a small box, so it easily kind of packs in there. What you're doing in this one is you are putting different land types on your map to reach different goals. And so...
Yeah, different polyomino
Mhm.
shapes with the different land types, filling out
A grid.
rectangular grid.
Yeah, it's like a 16 by 16 or something.
Is it a square grid?
No, it's rectangle. It's 16, but I know
But
16
yeah.
is on one side because that's a goal card.
Right.
But it's great, and you pretty much get to control your area. You occasionally have to swap your card for somebody else to give you a monster, but really, it's up to you to kind of design your map and using those shapes how you like. And so I think it's a great one to bring to the table. It's a kind of filler. You know, it gives you a second to just kind of focus on your board and kind of think Tetris-y, I guess. It also opens the table up to pretty much anyone. I highly recommend if you play this game, though, to get colored pencils or crayons or something
sure.
that will increase your enjoyment of this game by a lot.
Right, and it just pops a lot more on the paper, and it's way easier than drawing the shapes, I found. I'm sure you might have someone in your group that likes drawing the shapes, but I do not, personally.
The squares are teeny, so like getting detail in there, they can get a little wishy. But yeah.
And like this is another one of those that it's simultaneously happening. Everyone's drawing the same shape and putting it in their map slightly differently, typically, than the other people. So that's always another thing too. That it's another quick one, typically.
Yeah, and it's fun at the end to compare maps to see how someone kind of arranged theirs opposed to yours. So.
Or when you're partway into the first round and someone's already figuring out, oh no, I made a huge mistake.
That's what you always like to hear.
As long as it's not you. And then for my number 3 game I'm going to put in the bag, I've got Point Salad, which plays from 2 to 6 players. So it kind of can get most group sizes, but not a huge group. But I think it plays well from all those different player counts, 2, 2, 6. Out of all the player counts I've tried, I don't think I've ever noticed it being like a bad game from one to another. And it's another extremely quick game. It's very, very easy to teach because each of the cards says directly what, how it's scored, or else you just take the vegetable cards, which is a very easy thing. Each turn is really quick again, where you either have the option to pull one of the goal cards or pull 2 of the vegetable cards. I just really think it's a quick, snappy game. It's a filler. It's a nice filler game.
And a small box, so it fits nicely.
Yes, it's another
in the
small
game
box, so you can jam even more games in for game night. You're like, okay, now we're done with Point Salad. Let's get to the next one. But no, I think it's a really great game, and they don't make the goals hard by any means to understand, like, oh, is this meaning this or this? It's just very simple. Like, you get a set of these 3, you get 8 points. You get one of these, you get 2 points. You get one of these, you lose 4 points.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yep, definitely open to beginners. So if you have someone who's kind of newer to the gaming hobby, it'll be a nice soft opening for them, and for your other players it'll be kind of a nice little break, but also there is thinking involved in it. It's not just easy peasy. So it kind of meets a wide range of needs there, I think. So it's a good game.
Yeah.
All right, the next one I put in mine is another Garfield game. It is Explorers of the North Sea. And so I think it's great just as it is, but I would recommend you get the expansion for it to upgrade it from 4 players to 5. I think this game is great because essentially you're building the board that you're playing on. You kind of have different goals, and so you get to sail your ship around to different islands and kind of figure out different goals. Important to note that, as you bring more players into this game, your space of movement could be limited because often we find in 2-player games we just kind of separate and go to our own sides of the board.
So whoever draws the better tiles kind of ends up
wins. But with more players, everyone's going to kind of go for their exact goals that they have on their card, and so you might not get to do all of the things you want to do. And so I think that it's a challenge like that in a higher player count. And so I think it's good because you get a lot of movement and it's maybe a little bit more thinky, with more players, but at the same time I think it's also fun enough that it's not like a downer or anything like that.
Yeah, one of the major things in it is pick up and deliver, and I think it does that pretty well, where you're picking up either your Vikings or else animals on various islands and trying to bring them back. And I think the expansion definitely is a good one to buy because it gives you a few more options. It opens a few things up for you to do that you can't do in the base game. I think it makes some of your actions towards the end of the game a little better. It makes it a little easier to complete some things, which is really nice. I think too.
You really feel like you're a Viking out, fighting the other clans for land.
Right, and exploring the seas.
For Valhalla!
What do I got? Ooh, and my fourth game I'm bringing in my bag is Quacks of Quedlinburg, which the base game is 1 to 4 players, but it comes with a lot of different variations of how you can score the different types of chips and how they kind of interact with one another, which leads to a lot of replayability, which is why I think this is a really fun one to bring in there. It's definitely got the push your luck mechanism in the bag building. I really enjoy bag building and deck building, so this one as a bag builder is really fun. And obviously we've got the upgraded chips, which are extremely nice.
If you're going to play it a lot, you need the upgraded chips.
Yeah, it makes it even funner to play for sure because you hear the little clinking of the chips in your bag, and it's just extremely fun to pick them out and lay them out on your board.
So much replayability. I think it's a longer game, I think, with more players, so you're going to spend a little bit more time on this game, but I think you'll have fun doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's another one you're playing it simultaneously, where you're all pulling out of the bag at the same time. Mm-hmm. Just the in-between rounds is when it could take a little bit longer, when people are kind of trying to decide, what's the best chip to buy, or combination of chips with the amount of money that I have.
Right, but not too long. I mean, it's a good game.
And I think this is another one that the expansion adds even more things that you can do, and it adds a 5th player. So if you need it to be a 5-player game, if you just get the base game and the expansion and the chips for the base game and the expansion, this is a perfect buy.
It's good as a base game too. We wouldn't have bought all the extras if we didn't like the base game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my last one is Clank Legacy. This is a 4-player game, and you're going to have to play it with the same people. So we often have game nights with the same people, my brother and sister-in-law, or his brother, or my sister, and so it's easy for us to find a Legacy game and people to play with. But this is basically a story game where you kind of go through and create the board and this whole story all by yourself. It's so much fun. You get to, you get to live it with other people, and you guys get to walk away from the table with, remember, when this happened in game 2, or just kind of laughing as you go throughout the game, I think is great. There's a little bit of teamwork in there too, so a nice element of togetherness at the end of game night. So I think it's great. You do have to play with the same people, but I think it's well worth it to put it in your bag.
For sure. I totally agree with that.
It's a big box, though. So
it is a big box, so it's gonna be your big box game. But yeah, if you've got a solid group of 4 people that you always game with,
or less,
yep, I would highly recommend. If you've never played a Legacy game, we had not played one before.
It's got to be a great one to start with.
Yeah, it's an amazing game, and you have a ton of fun with it if you're willing to. I don't know if it would have not done as well if we hadn't sort of played together. It seemed like we didn't team up, but kind of worked together at certain points in it. I don't know if it would work a little differently if you didn't.
You're working towards the same goal, so if you're doing that, you're fine. Otherwise, you're going to end up replaying or probably not getting as good of an outcome as we get.
Mm-hmm. But no, that's an amazing choice.
Thank you.
I agree with you 100%.
All right, top that.
Well, I have also got a very big box game for my 5th game, and it might actually be the same size as all of these other games put together in one box. And I've got Dwellings of Eldervale as my number 5 game of what I'd put in my game bag. I think it's just an amazing game. It's one that's new to me this year. My brother got the whatever top version of it, so we've got almost all the trinkets and everything that make it even better.
This thing is tricked out.
It is very tricked out. Maybe a little over tricked out, but it's a lot of fun. I was a little worried.
Would it be in your game bag if it wasn't tricked out?
I think it still would be, because I was a little worried that I'd watched some gameplay before, and my brother still pulled the trigger, and once I played it, I was just super impressed with it. I really love it, and I just want to keep getting it to the table. So I think it's a great one if you're looking for that big, grandiose game to bring to the table as you're at your game night. It's a great one, and it plays. What did I have here? 1 to 5 players. So most game groups. I mean, if you get up to 6 or whatever, then obviously it won't work out. But I think it's a really fun game. It kind of changes slightly from game to game. I would say, depending on how many players you have in the game and which monsters you're going to fight in each game for the different types of elements. But no, I really love it. It's got great table presence, and I'd highly recommend it. Putting it in your game bag. So my 5 games that I'd have in my game bag are Architects of the West Kingdom, Camel Up, Point Salad, Quacks of Quedlinburg, and Dwellings of Eldervale.
Right. And mine are Wingspan, Ethnos, Cartographers, Explorers of the North Sea, and Clank Legacy. So there you have it. Those are our recommended game night game bags. What do you think? Who built the better bag?
What do you have in your bag? What 5 games would you put in your game bag?
And maybe we'll have to check again later to see if we change any of these games out. Thanks for watching, guys. Go check out our channel to see everything else we do. Keep on nibbling.